start at 10. Okay. Greetings, everyone, in the matchless name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Today, I'm going to start in the book of Jasher and chapter 37 in the Bible of the Sefer. All right. Chapter 37, here we are. And it says, and in the 105th year of the life of Jacob, that is the 9th year of Jacob's dwelling with his children in the land of Canaan, he came from Pandan Aram. And in those days, Jacob journeyed with his children from Chevron, and they went and returned to the city of Shechem, they and all the belongings to them, and they dwelled there. For the children of Jacob obtained good and fat pasture land for their cattle in the city of Shechem. The city of Shechem, having then been rebuilt, and were in it about 300 men and women. And Jacob and his children, all belonging to him, dwelled in the part of the field which Jacob had brought from Chamar, the father of Shechem. And when he came from Pandamaram, before Simeon and Levi had smitten the city, and all these kings of Canaan, of the Canaanites and the Amorites that surrounded the city of Shechem, heard that the sons of Jacob had again come to Shechem and dwell there. And they said, shall the sons of Jacob, the Hebrew, again come to the city and dwell therein? And after that, they had smitten its inhabitants and driven them out. And they now return and also drive out those who are dwelling in the city of, or slay them. And all the kings of Canaan again assembled, and they came together to make war with Jacob and his sons. And Yashev, king of Tabnash, came also all to his neighboring kings, to Elan, king of Ganash, and to Aburiah, king of Shalom, and to Parathon, king of Shazar, and to Kusi, king of Sardon, and to Lavan, king of Beth Charon. All these names I'm naming are in Hebrew, and I'm just trying to pronounce them the best way I can. Bear with me. Amen. And to Shavriah, king of Onatama, saying, come up to me and assist me, and let us smite Jacob, the Hebrew, and his sons, and all belonging to him, for they are again come to Shechem to possess it, and to slay its inhabitants as before. And all these kings assembled together and came with all their camps, people exceedingly plentiful, like the sand upon the seashore. And they were all opposite to Tabnash. And Yashab, king of Tabnash, went forth to them with all his army, and he encamped with them opposite to Tabnash without the city. And all these kings, they divided into 7 divisions, being 7 camps against the sons of Jacob. And they sent a declaration to Jacob and his sons, saying, come, you all forth to us, that we may have an interview together in the plain, and revenge the cause of men of Shechem, whom you slew in the city. And you will now again return to the city of Shechem and dwell therein, and slay its inhabitants as before. And the sons of Jacob heard this, and their anger was kindled exceedingly. And the words of the kings of Canaan and 10 sons of Jacob hastened and rose up. I can hear you guys. Can you put you on mute? And the sons of Jacob heard this, and their anger was kindled exceedingly at the words of the kings of Canaan. And 10 of the sons of Jacob hastened and rose up, and each of them girded on his weapons of war. And there were 102 of their servants with them, equipped in a battle array. And all these men, the son of Jacob with their servants, went toward these kings. And Jacob their father was with them. And they all stood upon the heap of Shechem. And Jacob prayed to Yahuwah for his sons. And he spread forth his hands to Yahuwah, and he said, O Elohim, you are El Shaddai. You are our Father. You did form us, and we are the works of your hand. I pray you, deliver my sons to your mercy from the hand of the enemy, who are this day coming to fight with them, and save them from their hand. For in your hand is power and might to save the few from the many, and give unto of my sons your servants strength of heart and might to fight with the enemies, to subdue them, and to make their enemies fall before them. And let not my sons and their servants die through the hands of the children of Canaan. But it seems good in your eyes to take away the lives of my sons and their servants. Take them in your great mercy through the hands of your ministers, that they may not perish this day by the hands of the kings of the Amorites. And when Jacob ceased praying to Yahuwah, the earth shook from its place, and the sun darkened, and all these kings were terrified, and a great consternation seized them. And Yahuwah hearkened to the prayer of Jacob, and Yahuwah impressed the hearts of all the kings and their hosts with the terror and awe of the sons of Jacob. For Yahuwah ceased them, because Yahuwah caused them to hear the voice of chariots and the voice of mighty horses from the sons of Jacob, and the voice of a great army accompanying them. And these kings were seized with great terror of the sons of Jacob. And while they were standing in their quarters, behold, the sons of Jacob advanced upon them with 112 men, and with a great and tremendous shouting. And when the king saw the sons of Jacob advancing toward them, they were still more panic struck, and they were inclined to retreat from the sons of Jacob as at first, and not to fight with them. But they did not retreat, saying it would be a disgrace to us twice to retreat from before the Hebrew. And the sons of Jacob came near and advanced against all these kings and their armies, and they saw, and behold, it was a very mighty people, numerous as the sands of the sea. And the sons of Jacob called unto Yahuwah and said, Help us, O Yahuwah, help us and answer us, for we trust in you. And let us not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men, who this day has come against us. And the sons of Jacob girt on their weapons of war, and they took in their hands each man his shield and his javelin, and they approached to battle. And Yahudah, which is Judah, the son of Jacob, ran first before his brethren, and 10 of his servants with him, and he went toward these kings. And Yashab, king of Tampanash, also came forth first with his army before Yahudah. And Yahudah saw Yashab and his army coming toward him, and Yahudah's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him, and he approached to battle, in which Yahudah, which is Judah, ventured his life. And Yashab and all his army were advancing toward Judah, and he was riding upon a very strong and powerful horse. And Yashab, the king, was a very valiant man, and covered with iron and brass from head to foot. And while he was upon the horse, he shot arrows with both hands from before and behind, as was his manner in all his battles. And he never missed the place to which he aimed his arrows. And when Yashab came to fight with many arrows against Judah, Yahuwah bound the hand of Yashab, and all the arrows that he shot rebound upon his own men. And notwithstanding this, King Yashab kept advancing toward Judah to challenge him with the arrows, but the distance between them was about 30 cubits. And when Judah saw King Yashab, darting forth his arrows against him, he ran to him with his wrath, excited might. And Judah took up a large stone from the ground, and its weight was 60 shekels. And Judah ran toward Yashab, the king, and with the stone struck him on his shield, that Yashab was stunned with the blow and fell off from his horse to the ground. And the shield burst asunder out of the hand of Yashab, and through the force of the blow sprang to the distance of about 15 cubits, and the shield fell before the second camp. And the kings that came with Yashab saw at a distance the strength of Judah, the son of Yashab, and the son of Jacob, and what he had done to Yashab. And they were terribly afraid of Judah. And they assembled near Yashav's camp, seeing his confusion. And Judah drew his sword and smote 42 men of the camp of Yashav, and the whole of Yashav's camp fled from before Judah, and no man stood against him. And they left Yashav and fled from him. And Yashav was still prostrated on the ground. And Yashav, seeing that all the men of his camp had fled from him, hastened and rose up with terror against Judah, and stood upon his legs opposite Judah. And Yashab had a single combat with Judah, excuse me, placing shield toward shield. And Yashab men all fled, for they were greatly afraid of Judah. And Judah took his spear in his hand to strike Judah upon his head. But Judah had quickly placed his shield to his head against Yashav's spear, so that the shield of Judah received the blow from the Yashav's spear, and the shield was split in two. And when Judah saw that his shield was split in two, he hastily drew his sword and smote Yashav at his ankles and cut off his feet. That Yashav fell upon the ground, and the spear fell upon his hand. And Judah hastily picked up Yashav's spear, with which he severed his head and cast it next to his feet. And when the son of Jacob saw that Judah had done to Yashav, the king, all ran into the ranks of other kings. And the son of Jacob fought with the army of Yashab and the armies of all the kings that were there. And the sons of Yashab caused 15,000 of their men to fall, and they smote them as if smiting at gourds, and the rest fled for their lives. And Judah was still standing by the body of Yashab, and stripped Yashab of his coat of mail. And Judah also took off the iron and brass that was about the king Yashab. And behold, 9 men of the captains of Yashab came along to fight against Judah. And Judah hastened, took up a stone from the ground, and with it smote one of them upon the head, and his skull was fractured. And the body also fell from the horse to the ground. And the 8 captains that remained, seeing the strength of Judah, were greatly afraid, and they fled. And Judah with his 10 men pursued them, and they overtook them and slew them. And the men of the sons of Jacob, were still smiting the armies of the kings, and they slew many of them. But those kings daringly kept their stand with their captains, and did not retreat from their places. And they exclaimed against those of their army that fled from before the sons of Jacob, but none would listen to them, for they were afraid of their lives, lest they should die. And all the sons of Jacob, after having smitten the armies of the kings, returned and came from Judah's, and Judah was still slaying the 8 captains of Yashab, and stripping off their garments. And Levi saw Elon, king of Ganash, advancing toward him, and with his 4 captains to smite him. But Levi did not know it for certain. And Elon, with his captains, approached nearer, and Levi looked back and saw that the battle was given him in the rear. And Levi ran with the 12 of his servants, and they went and slew Elam and his captains with the edge of the sword. Chapter 38. And Iberi, king of Shiloh, came up to assist Elon, and he approached Jacob. When Jacob drew his sword, his bow that was in his hand, and with an arrow struck Iberi, which caused his death. And when Iberi, king of Shiloh, was dead, the 4 remaining kings fled from their station with the rest of the captains, and they endeavored to retreat, saying, "We have no more strength with the Hebrew," after their having killed the 3 kings and their captains who were more powerful than we are. And when the sons of Jacob saw that the remaining kings had been removed from their stations, they pursued them. And Jacob also came from the heap of Shechem, from the place where he was standing, and went after the kings and approached them with their servants. And the kings and the captains with the rest of their armies, seeing that the sons of Jacob approached them, were afraid of their lives, and fled till they reached the city of Jezreel. And the sons of Jacob pursued them to the gate of the city of Shajar. And they smote a great smiting among the kings and their armies, about 4,000 men. And while they were smiting the army of the kings, Jacob was occupied with his bow, confining himself to smiting the kings, and he slew them all. And he slew Pathan, the king of Shajar, at the gate of the city of Shajar. And he afterwards smote Cusi, king of Sodom, and Lavan, king of Beth Sharon, and Shavir, king of Mahnemaiah. And he slew them with all the arrows, an arrow to each of them, and they died. And the sons of Jacob, seeing that all the kings were dead, that they were broken up and retreating, continued to carry on the battle with the armies of the king opposite the gate of Shazar. And they still smote about 400 of their men. And 3 men of the servants of Jacob fell in that battle. And when Judah saw the 3 of his servants had died, it grieved him greatly, and his anger burned within him against the Amorites. And all the men that remained at the armies of the kings were greatly afraid of their lives, and they ran and broke the gate of the walls of the city of Shazar, and all entered the city for safety. And they concealed themselves in the midst of the city of Chazar, for the city of Chazar was very large and extensive. And when all the armies had entered the city, the sons of Jacob ran after them to the city. And 4 mighty men, experienced in battle, went forth from the city and stood against the entrance of the city with drawn swords and spears in their hands. And they placed themselves opposite the son of Jacob, and would not suffer them to enter the city. And Naphtali ran and came between them with his sword, and smote 2 of them, and cut off their heads at one stroke. And he turned to the other 2, and behold, they fled. And he pursued them, overtook them, smote them, and slew them. And the sons of Jacob came to the city, and saw, and behold, there was other wall to the city. And they sought for the gate of the wall, and could not find it. And Judah sprang upon the top of the wall, and Simeon and Levi followed him, and they all 3 descended from the wall into the city. And Simeon and Levi slew all the men who ran for safety into the city, and also the inhabitants of the city with their women and little ones. And they slew with the edge of the sword. And the cries of the city ascended up to heaven. And Dan and Naphtali sprang upon the wall to see what caused the noise of lamentation. For the sons of Jacob felt anxious about their brothers, and they heard the inhabitants of the city speaking with weeping and supplication, saying, "Take all that we possess in this city and go away. Do not put us to death." And when Judah, Simeon, and Levi had ceased smiting the inhabitants of the city, they ascended the wall and called to Dan and Naphtali, who were upon the wall, and the rest of their brothers, and Simeon and Levi informed them of the entrance into the city. And all the sons of Jacob came fetched came to fetch the spoil. And the sons of Jacob took the spoil of the city of Shazar, the flocks and herds and the property, and they took all that could be captured and went away that day from the city. And on the next day, the sons of Jacob went to Sodom, for they heard that the men of Sodom who had remained in the city were assembling to fight with them for having slain their king. And Sodom was a very high and fortified city, and it had a deep rampart surrounding the city. And the pillar of the rampart was about 50 cubits, and it breadth 50 cubits, and there was no place for a man to enter the city on account of the rampart. And the sons of Jacob saw the rampart of the city, and they sought an entrance in it, but could not find it. For the entrance to the city was at the rear, and every man that wished to come into the city came by that road and went around the whole city. And he afterwards entered the city. And the sons of Jacob, seeing they could not find the way into the city, their anger was kindled greatly. And the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming to them, were greatly afraid of them. For they had heard of their strength and what they had done to Shazar. And the inhabitants of the city of Sodom could not go out toward the sons of Jacob after having assembled in the city to fight against them, lest they might thereby get into the city. And when they saw that they were coming toward them, they were greatly afraid of them, for they heard their strength and what they had done to Shazar. So the inhabitants of Sodom speedily took away the bridge of the road of the city from its place before the sons of the city from its place before the sons of Jacob came, and they brought it into the city. And the sons of Jacob came and sought this way into the city and could not find it. And the inhabitants of the city went up to the top of the wall and saw, and behold, the sons of Jacob were seeking the entrance into the city. And the inhabitants of the city reproached the sons of Jacob from the top of the wall, and they cursed them. And the sons of Jacob heard the reproaches, and they were greatly incensed with anger, burned within them. Jacob were provoked at them, and they all rose and sprang over the rampart with the force of their strength, and through their might passed the 40 cubits breadth of the rampart. And when they had passed the rampart, they stood under the wall of the city, and they found all the gates of the city enclosed with iron doors. And the sons of Jacob came near to break open the doors of the gates of the city, and the inhabitants did not let them. For from the top of the wall they were casting stones and arrows upon them. And the number of the people that were upon the wall was about 400 men. And when the sons of Jacob saw that the men of the city would not let them open the gates of the city, they sprang and ascended the top of the wall. And Judah went up first to the east part of the city, and Gad and Asher went up after him to the west corner of the city, and Simeon and Levi to the north, and Dan and Reuben to the south. And the men who were on top of the wall, the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming up to them, they all fled from the wall, descended into the city, and concealed themselves in the midst of the city. And it's Yeshaka, but it's one of the brothers, and Naphtali, that remained under the wall, approached and broke the gates of the city, and kindled a fire at the gates of the city that the iron melted. And all the sons of Jacob came into the city, and all their men, and they fought with the inhabitants of the city of Sodom, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and no man stood before them. And about 200 men fled from the city, and they all went and hid themselves in a certain tower in the city. And Judah pursued them to the tower, and he broke down the tower, which fell upon the men, and they all died. And the sons of Jacob went up the road of the roof of that tower, and they saw, and behold, There was another strong and high tower at a distance in the city, and the top of it reached to heaven. And the sons of Jacob hastened and ascended that went with all the men to that tower, and found it filled with about 300 men, women, and little ones. And the sons of Jacob smote a great smiting against those men in the tower, and they ran away and fled from them. And Simeon and Levi pursued them with 12 mighty and valiant men, came out to them from the place where they had concealed themselves. And those 12 men maintained a strong battle against Simeon and Levi. And Simeon and Levi could not prevail over them. And those valiant men broke the shields of Simeon and Levi, and one of them struck at Levi's head with his sword. And when Levi hastily placed his hand to his head, for he was afraid of the sword, and the sword struck Levi's hand, and it wanted but little to the hand of Levi's being cut off. And Levi seized the sword of the valiant man in his hand and took it forcibly from the man, and with it he struck at the head of the powerful man and severed his head. And 11 men approached to the fight with Levi, for they saw that one of them was killed. And the sons of Jacob fought, and the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them, for their men were very powerful. And the sons of Jacob, seeing that they could not prevail over them, Simeon gave a loud and tremendous shriek, and the 11 powerful men were stunned at the voice of Simeon's shrieking. And Judah at a distance knew the voice of Simeon shouting, and Naphtali and Judah ran with their shields to Simeon and Levi, and found them fighting with these powerful men, and able to prevail over them, as their shields were broken. And Naphtali saw that the shields of Simeon and Levi were broken, and he took 2 shields from his servants and brought them to Simeon and Levi. And Simeon, Levi, and Judah on that day fought all 3 against the 11 mighty men until the time of sunset, but they could not prevail over them. And this was told unto Jacob, and he was sorely grieved, and prayed unto Yahuwah. And he and Naphtali and his son went against these mighty men. And Yahuwah approached and drew his bow, came nigh unto the mighty men, and slew 3 of their men with the bow. And remaining 8 turned back, and behold, the war waged against them in the front and rear. And they were greatly afraid of their lives, and could not stand before the sons of Jacob. And they fled before them. And in their fight they met Dan and Asher coming toward them, and they suddenly fell upon them and fought with them, and slew 2 of them. Judah and his brothers pursued them, and smote the remainder of them, and slew them. All the sons of Jacob returned and walked about the city, searching if they could find any men. They found about 20 young men in a cave in the city, and Gad and Asher smote them, and Dan and Naphtali lighted upon the rest of the men who had fled and escaped from the second tower, and they smote them. And the sons of Jacob smote all the inhabitants of the city of Sodom. But the women and little ones they left in the city, and did not slay them. And all the inhabitants of the city were powerful men. One of them would pursue 1,000, and 2 of them would not flee from 10,000 of the rest of the men. And the sons of Jacob slew all the inhabitants of the city of Sodom in the edge of the sword, that no man stood against them. And they left the women in the city. And the sons of Jacob took all the spoil of the city, and captured what they desired. And they took the flocks and herds and property from the city. And the sons of Jacob did unto Sodom and its inhabitants as they had done to Shajar and its inhabitants. And they turned and went away. I'm going to stop right there. And next time will be chapter 39 in the book of Jasher. And now I will go to the book of Enoch, chapter 68, I think it is. I pray everybody is still with me and still listening. Enoch 3:24. Until next time, we will talk about the book of Jasher. Jasher is getting really good. Okay. I'm in the book of Enoch, chapter 68. And it reads as thus. After this, he gave me the characteristical marks of all the secret things in the Sefer of my great-grandfather Enoch, and in the parables which had been given to him, inserting them for me among the words of the Sefer of parables. And at that time, Michael answered and said to Raphael, the power of the Ruach hurries me away, it impels me on. The severity of judgment, of the secret judgment of the angels, who is capable of endurance of that severe judgment which has taken place, has been made permanent without being meted at the sight of it. And holy Michael answered and said to holy Raphael, who is there whose heart is not softened by it, and whose mind is not troubled at this thing? Judgment had come forth against them by those who had thus dragged them away, and that it was when they stood in the presence of Yahuwah Tesla in like manner. Also holy Raphael and said to Raphael, they shall not be before the eyes of Yahuwah, since Yahuwah Tesla has been offended with them. For Adonim have they conducted themselves. Therefore will he bring upon them a secret judgment forever and ever. For neither shall angel nor man receive a portion of it, but they alone shall receive their own judgment forever and ever. Let me refresh you for a minute, because I haven't read Enoch in a while. Okay, there was these great men that of God, and the angels came and had children with the women on the earth, and they showed them secret things, how to sew, how to make weapons, how to do things, magic, everything. And so God's wrath was kindled against these angels, and they asked for mercy. But here, as you see, God did not grant them, because he gathered them all up and threw them into hell, in the darkness, in eternal darkness. Now here I'm reading chapter 69. And it says as thus, after this judgment, they shall be astonished and irritated, for it shall be exhibited to the inhabitants of the earth. And behold, the names of those angels, these are their names. The first of them is Shemaliah, the second, Aristikapa, the third, Armin, the fourth, Kakabel, Biel, the fifth, Turel, the sixth, Rumiel, the seventh, Dandiel, and the eighth, Kael, the ninth, Baka, Barakiel, and the tenth, Azaziel, the 11th, Armors, the 12th, Bartariel, the 13th, Basaziel, the 14th, Ananiel, the 15th, and Turiel, the 16th, and Semapaziel, the 17th, and yet Tariel, the 18th, and Tamiel, the 19th, and Tarel, the 20th, and Rumel, the 21st, Aziel, and these are the chiefs of their angels, and the names of the leaders of their hundreds, and the leaders of their fifties, and the leaders of their tens. And the name of the first is Yechen. It was he who seduced all the sons of the holy angels, and causing them to descend on earth, led astray the offspring of men. The name of the second, and Jezebel, who pointed out evil counsel to the sons of the holy angels and induced them to corrupt their bodies by generating mankind. The name of the third is Cadriel. He discovered every stroke of death to the children of men. He seduced Chura and discovered to the children of men the instruments of death, the coat of mail, the shield, and the sword for slaughter, every instrument of death to the children of men. From his hand was derived to them who dwell upon the earth from the period forever, from that period forever. The name of the fourth is Penamenu. He discovered to the children of men bitterness and sweetness, and pointed out to them every secret of their wisdom. He taught them to understand writing and ink and paper. Therefore, numerous has been those who have gone astray from every period of the world, even to this day. For men were not born for this, thus with pen and with ink to confirm their faith, since they were not created except that, like the angels, they might remain righteous and pure. Nor would death, which destroyed everything, have effect them. But by this their knowledge they perish, and by this also power consumes. The name of the fifth is Kazidi, and he discovered to the children of men every wicked stroke of the ruach of devils, the spirit of devils, the stroke of the embryo in the womb to diminish it, and the stroke, what is that, abortions? The stroke to the ruach by the bite of the serpent, and the midday stroke of the offspring of the serpent, the
Yes,
name of
ma'am.
which is Tabet. And this is the number of Kezebel, and the principal part of the oath which El Elyon dwell in glory revealed to the holy ones. Its name is Becca. He spoke to the holy Michael to discover to them the sacred name, that they might understand that sacred name and thus remember the oath, and that those who pointed out every secret thing to the children of men might tremble at the name and oath. Becca is spelled Beka. Becca. Okay, this is the power of that oath. For powerful it is and strong. And he has established the oath of AK by the instrumentality, instrumentality of the holy Michael. And these are the secrets of this oath, and by it they will confirm. Heaven was suspended by it before the world was made forever. By the earth has founded upon the flood. And while from the concealed parts of the hills the agitated waters proceeded forth from the creation to the end of the world. And by this oath the sea has been formed, and the foundation of it. During the period of its fury, he established the sand against it, which continues unchanged forever. And by this oath, the abyss has been made strong, nor is it removable from the station forever and ever. So the oceans and the seas go up into the land and return, wash upon the sea and return. They have an oath with God that they had to go no further and no more unless come in. Wow, that's powerful. I tell you, Elohim, El Shaddai is no joke. And by the oath of the abyss has been made strong, nor it's removable from its station forever and ever. And by this oath, the sun and moon complete their progress, nor never swaying, severing from the command to them forever and ever. By this oath, the stars complete their progress, and when their names are called, they return an answer forever and ever. Thus, the heavens, having the blowing of the winds, all of them ha- have ruach, the spirit, and are a complete combination of breathings. There, the treasures of thunders are kept, and the splendor of the lightnings. There are kept the treasures of hail and frost, the treasures of snow, the treasures of rain and dew, All these confess and Lord before Yahuwah Tezallah thy glory with all their power and praise, and he sustains them in all thanksgiving. And while they Lord, glory and exalt the name of Yahuwah Tezallah forever and ever. And with them he established this oath by which they and their paths were preserved, nor does their progress perish. Great was their joy. They blessed and glorified and exalted because the name of the Son of Adam was revealed to them. He sat upon the throne of glory, and the principal part of judgment was assigned to them. The Son of Adam, sinners Sinners shall disappear and perish from the face of the earth, while those who seduce them shall be bound with chains forever. According to their ranks of corruption shall they be imprisoned, and all their works shall disappear from the face of the earth. Nor thenceforth shall there be any to corrupt, for the Son of Adam has been seen sitting on the throne of his glory. Everything wicked shall disappear and depart from before his face, and the word of the Son of Adam shall become powerful in the presence of Yahuwah Tezlavah. This is the third parable of Enoch, chapter 70. After this, the name of the Son of Adam, living with Yahuwah Tezlavah, was exalted by the inhabitants of the earth. It was exalted in the chariots of the Ruach, the Spirit, and the name went forth into the midst of them. From that time I was not drawn into the midst of them, but he seated me between two Ruach, between two spirits, between the north and the west, where the angels received their robes to measure out a place for the elect and righteous. There I beheld the fathers of the first men in the Quasidicium, who dwell in that place forever. Chapter 71. Afterwards, my Ruach was concealed, ascending into heaven, and I beheld the sons of the holy angels treading on flaming fire, whose garments and robes were white, and whose countenance was transparent as crystal. I saw two rivers of fire glittering like the hyacinth. This I fell on my face before Yahuwah Tezlavah, and Michael, one of the archangels, took me by the right hand, raised me up, and brought me out, where was every secret mercy and secret righteousness. He showed me all the hidden things of the extremities of heaven, all the receptacles of the stars, and the splendor of all from whence they went forth before the face of the holy. And he concealed the Ruach of Shinnok, which is Enoch, in the heavens of heavens. There I beheld the midst of that light, a building raised with stones of ice. In the midst of these stones, tongues of living fire. My Ruach saw around the circle of this flaming inhabitation on one of the extremities rivers full of living fire, which encompassed it. And then the seraphims and the cherubims and the onephims surrounded it. They are those who never sleep, but watch the throne of his glory. And I beheld angels in the innumerable thousands and myriads who surrounded that habitation. Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Penuel, and the holy angels were in the heavens above, went in and out of it. Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel went out of the habitations, and holy angels innumerable. With them was the Ancient of Days, whose head was white as wool and pure, and his robe was indescribable. Then I fell on my face, but all my flesh was dissolved, and my Ruach became changed. My spirit became changed. I cried out with a loud voice, with a powerful Ruach, blessing, glory, and exalting. And those blessings which proceeded from my mouth became acceptable in the presence of the Ancient of Days. The Ancients of Days came with Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Penuel with thousands of myriads and myriads, which could not be numbered. Then that angel came to me and with his voice saluted me, saying, "You are the son of Adam, who is born for righteousness, who is born for righteousness, and righteousness has rested upon you. The righteousness of the Ancient of Days shall not forsake you," he said. "On you shall he confer peace in the name of the existing world, for from thence has peace gone forth since the world was created, and thus shall it happen to you forever and ever. All shall exist. Who shall walk in your path of righteousness shall not forsake you forever. With you shall be their habitations, with you their lot. Not from you shall they be separated forever and ever. And thus shall length of days be with the son of Adam. Peace shall be to the righteous, and the path of integrity shall the righteous pursue in the name of Yahuwah, Tesla of all, forever and ever. I'm going to stop right there, and that and at the end of chapter 71 in the book of Enoch, called Shinnok in the Sefer, the Bible Sefer.
Thank you, Eldress Janice. Iron Bush. If the gang, I'm supposed to call Brother Terrell today. I will be sending you a link when we get with them brothers, the Prophet and everybody else, Brother Lloyd and everybody, Coco brother, me, myself, also Sister Janice. And I wanted, if my sister's still up here, Sister Janice was reading, I didn't want to cut her out. Elizabeth Dela Santos, we're gonna have you up here. I'll send you the link also. I know I'm saying I'll probably send it to you Facebook. I don't know if I got your number. I think you did give me your number when I was going over with my daughter with the county, but just shoot me a personal PM message and I'm gonna give you my number, or I could just send it to you through Facebook Messenger, however you want to do it. I'll get with you, Elizabeth. All of us gonna be on tonight. Everybody has different hours throughout the United States and countries. So I'll make sure that I get with y'all so y'all can come on the platform. We can hold 10 people. So I just want to make sure that I told Aaron Bush I ain't forgot about him. And this is a surprise for Elizabeth De Los Santos because Sister Eldridge Janice, my mother's, yeah, I need some women up there. So, okay. So, all right, we'll have everybody all in one. So,
You know how you men
beat
get
me
when
up.
you're all pumping up together. Yeah, you got to keep it on the level.
So,
And,
we hope
and
that we
also,
have
I just
everybody.
wanted to say, because I did want to comment on some of the things I've read today, because I noticed that Abraham and his sons, his grandsons, all of them, they acknowledge God. And only thing kept coming to mind was one can chase 1,000, two can chase 10,000. So, they conquered cities and stuff. Levi and Simeon, they took a whole town, a whole city. So, when you feel that you are outnumbered, you are not outnumbered when you call on the Lord. He's your stay. He will slay them all for you. And this is where we're living in today, where we feel we're defeated. They cut our money, they cut our wages, they keep cutting our wages, they're squeezing us tight. But I want you to be encouraged with God. Keep crying to him because he always make a way out of no way. Okay, keep the peace. Don't allow the enemy to rob you of your peace ever. And when sickness come upon you, God is a healer. He's everything that you will have him to be. He says, I am. Isn't that what he told Moses? Moses said, well, who are you? He said, I am. So he's who you want him to be. And also the kingdom is in you and around you. Isn't that in the book of Matthew? He talks about the kingdom because when I just read, when they gave Shinnok, which is Enoch, the peace around him forever. That's his kingdom. Your kingdom is your surroundings. You created it. So, and there's times God has to come in and try your peace. And then there's the day of evil, which I've experienced recently. My God. So, and this is all the things you have built up in your life that comes to try you. And you got to stand as gold and silver when you're in a fire. So, the things we do come back to you. You will reap what you sow, and it will come back to try you. All lies, tries, and everything, the day of evil will come upon you. And then there's the day of the Lord, which is your peace. So I want you to consider that. I got all this reading today, and I'm just passing it on to you. Shalom.